Welcome to a sneak peek of Inside Small Moments of Floral Love. I love sunflowers, and hopefully you do too. I believe I have at least 3 sunflowers to create in the sunflower section of Small Moments of Floral Love, and I thought today I would show you how I go about preparing and my step-by-step process of how to create my abstract florals. And so here I have my good old reliable puppy pad, which I love, and I have a palette pad here. I will go through the colors in a second, but because it's acrylic, I want to make sure, so I have a little water here. They do dry out. And so that's the wonderful thing and the not so wonderful thing about acrylics. And so what I have done in this course is I've either used fresh flowers and then taken a picture of them, or I have found beautiful free photo references online. So in this case, I found this beautiful image of these sunflowers that I am using for inspiration. They may not look exactly like this, but for me, it's about abstracting them out. I thought it might be not so difficult because there weren't that many colors that were involved, even though I'm going to mix up a bunch of colors, and I'll show you. So I am using this, but I can also use my iPhone or any other device to use that and lay that in front of me and go from there. And one of the reasons I do like using a reference image is because what I like to do is print out the reference image in black and white in the size that I'm going to be using. So I love these Jack Richardson. These are little hardwood panels. They're beautiful. This is what I've used for my collection, and I will show you at the end. And I adhere these on DaVinci Cradle board, but you could paint right on top of that. So what I do is I take the image and I get ready to print it. My paper is 8.5 by 11, but instead of printing it that size, I create custom dimensions. I have just a regular printer, and I basically tell the printer, I want you to print this out in 6 by 6, or if you're using 8 by 8, whatever size you're working with. And having your photo reference, your black and white, with your size that you're going to be using for your panel, I think makes the world of difference, because you're not looking at this and worried about composition and where it is going to fall. So I like to take a little bit of tracing paper, put the picture over this. This is great for students that are beginning, and especially if you really want the outline and the placement of where everything goes. And so I love to give all these additional tools on how to help students be very successful, create beautiful paintings, but not put a lot of anxiety into it. And when I come back, I am going to show you how I mix the colors for this beautiful sunflower. And so on my palette right now, I have Cadmium Red Medium, Cadmium Red Light, which looks very much like an orange, Alizirin Crimson, Cadmium Yellow Medium. This is Cadmium Yellow Light. I have 2 piles of Ultramarine, because one of these I'm going to mix for the background. I normally have Phthalo Blue, but I don't believe I'm going to use it at all for this painting. I have some black here, any color will do, titanium white. I love this raw umber because it really, especially with white flowers, where I go into color mixing white flowers, it's really pretty. And then yellow ochre. And I'm going to lean over here to get a little bit of quinacridone red. I'm going to put that there because that is a beautiful, beautiful color. And I may or may not use quinacridone magenta. And so I'm going to put this here just in case I think maybe I want to use that. And so to start looking at your colors, it's so wonderful to have your picture next to you. And so I'm going to just take my palette knife, and I can see right away that this cadmium yellow is a perfect starting point for this painting. So I want you to see, like if I held a little bit up there, you could see it's almost a match. And that's what's so good when you create a reference like this. I buy these plastic sleeves at Staples and I put them in here, and if I wanted to just test the color out on that, I could do that. It would be easy. And so it's not just yellow, right? So the sunflower is not just yellow. And I'm going to take a little bit of cadmium and bring some more yellow over here. And now I'm going to create a deeper yellow. And the color mixing is so beautiful because you definitely end up with some beautiful harmony here. I'm going to take a tiny bit of alizarin here. That might have been too tiny, but I want some piles. I'm going to start out with a darker color, and I might even go a little bit, I might add a little bit of raw umber to this. So you can see that's changing it, and it's making it warm. So already I have just this straight cadmium. I have this little bit in here, which I think needs a little bit more red. And I will actually be mixing more as I go along and I see what colors I need. And as you're doing this, as you see, I'm not using lots of paint here, but you want to make sure that your paints are wet. And so here is this raw umber, and I'm going to take just a little bit of this. And that almost creates a green-gray. Kind of cool. I don't think I ever did that before. It's so great when you mix your own colors here. And that's a little bit of alizarin, and that red against almost greenish here is going to kind of muddy it up again, but basically in a good way. And so there you have some of the yellows, and I'm going to do some of this lemon yellow, which is very, very bright. It's very bright, and that could be used on the tips. And not matching exactly, but I want to have just a few color combinations here. And so taking black, oh, you don't want to do that. Look what I just did. That's why you have to be very careful. That's an oops, but I know I'm going to change the color. And so taking some black here and some alizarin is going to create a very rich, kind of a very rich black with a reddish tint. It's very, very deep. And I can even take some ultramarine in here and a little bit of yellow. Even a little red, because I'm going to put this in this center. So it's a very rich dark brown. Okay, so moving on, just want to show you that. Bring that down a little bit. And I'm going to actually turn off one of those lights. Okay, so we have this so far, and now I'm going to work with my greens. And so the easiest green, really, I find, is Cadmium and Ultramarine. And now I want to show you something that I actually found out not that long ago, and that is when you take black and you mix some yellow, you come up with a beautiful olive. You come up with a beautiful olive that could be used in the darker areas of your piece. And then if you want a lighter green, you're just simply going to make sure you wipe off everything. The ultramarine with the lemon. And you see I'm not adding any white. I'm not saying I won't, but I did not add any white. And for now, I think we have a really good start. Except what I want to do here is take some white and some blue and mix some titanium in there. I'm going to see how, look at that beautiful, beautiful color. I'm going to add more white. And you can make this as light or as dark as you want. And that may be my background. So we are going. So you heard me say about preparation. So before we put any type of brush to the paint, I am making sure that I am prepared, that I have most of my colors laid out, most of my color mixes laid out, and I will probably be making more as I go along. I have my water bottle. If I'm using acrylics, I have everything right here in front of me. I'm going to be using a 3/4 inch flat edge brush because this is my favorite brush ever, and I have so many of these. And so I love that I can create lines, and this doesn't mean I have to put all of this in the painting. And so let me just move that aside since I have what I need in front of me. And so what I'm going to do in the very beginning of this painting, and I also have my palette knife here, and I'm going to see if, and a 1-inch brush, which I may use for the background. So I'm going to see in here, I'm going to do this dark area right here. So you can see it's almost black. It's almost black. And feel free if you want to use a smaller, brush. And I actually don't worry. I'm actually going to come over here. I don't worry if it's not perfect, because what I really am trying to do is create a bit of an abstract look. This painting happens to have one big sunflower over here and then another one here, and I'm going to go over, this one was a little too dark, so I'm going to go over it with this green. You can see it's actually almost dry. So I'm painting wet into wet. and it's just really the first piece that I'm doing. So keep spraying, and I can see that over here we have some dark, and I'm just getting the shapes down here. And it is dry. So here we have this. Just putting the greens for now. That's a little wet. Just putting the greens. Not all of the greens, just a little bit of the greens. And I could even add some pieces as I go along here. And let's just put these in. And again, just using them for placement of where everything is going to go. Okay, so what's next is I am going to start in with the darker colors here, even that and so if you're somebody that doesn't mind your colors mixing, then this is probably okay for you. If you're somebody that just seems to not enjoy that, so you can see I'm just now mixing some colors together. And that will dry soon. And the idea is for me to actually just paint abstractly, to be able to look at this. Now this is very light. This is a very light green, but I don't want to go that light yet, so I'll go in with a little bit of that color. And so now I have a green that I may or may not come back with and leave that out. And so I can come in now, and I think what I'd like to do is I would like to see what this beautiful background looks like. And so this is where, when I teach the class, I talk all about this part, which is really kind of cutting out, going in, kind of cutting out. And don't worry, again, I want this to have an abstract look. And if I make a mistake, it's acrylic. And sometimes I will leave the underneath color. I'm going to go right over this that was in there. Sometimes I'll leave that underneath color. And then you can kind of carve out. especially with black and red. I love to do that. And in the a few of the demos, you'll see me do that. And I never mind if some of this color mixes in. So that doesn't bother me at all, because I feel like it creates some really nice color harmony. And I'm actually going to go over a lot of this with my palette knife. But look at the difference in this painting, adding that beautiful blue color. All right. I may not have to go over this. And do remember that acrylics dry. They dry darker. And you don't want to wet your paper too much, or your substrate, whatever you're using. Here, you know, I told my students in the class, it really is whatever you want to use. I have created on paper to show them how to create on paper. You could work in a journal. So the whole idea with this course is small, painting small. And so far, it really does look pretty good. And this is how you just kind of shape out your flower. And, you know, it's great if it blends in. So now you're bringing some beautiful, like a greenish. And sometimes you don't always want your background to be just one color. You don't always want them to be one color. And so let's keep that for now. I'm going to put my little brush in here. So I'm going to get my palette knife. And I'm just going to start. This is pretty much the cadmium. And I will say, if there is a color that you go through the most, it's the cadmium. So I'm going to use my palette knife to go in here and just kind of create those petals. And the palette knife, I'm not worried about the color right now. The palette knife is something that I'm so used to because, I'll come in and fix that, because of my time as an encaustic wax artist. And I just got so used to using a palette knife. So this definitely needs more yellow. And again, it's just creating kind of an abstract look. And not a problem. Sometimes I can scrape out and it creates a really beautiful look, scraping out. See what I'm doing? I'm taking my knife, kind of scraping out along the edge there. And I am going to take my finger and I'm going to dot this. Okay? And so let that just sit for a little. Okay, I actually needed to get some more just straight cadmium on here. And if you allow it to dry, get some really interesting, you can just go over it. And I will come back and play with that a little bit more. There's actually a little bit of gold happening here. And see, this is already getting some green in there as I do that. And that's perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay. See, this is what I want my students to do. I want them to kind of play and feel safe while they're doing something, and just have those moments where the painting is theirs. I'm teaching them, of course, but what I love is when the students do their own thing, kind of like I'm doing right now. And now I'm mixing in here. Again, I am not afraid to do this at all. And you really don't have to do much with that color, because that's not the star of the show. The star of the show is this one. And in fact, I'm actually going to bring these up a little bit. A little bit of red in here. I'm doing my own thing. Just because I want that totally abstract look. And so now, I'm just going to get my palette knife, and I'm going to start using this to come down and shape a little bit. If you are a really detailed painter, I want this dark over here. If you're a really detailed painter, and that's what you love to do, then make it your painting. While this may be abstract, I'm just going to add over here, maybe even add a little white in here. See? Make the painting your own. Add to it. Say, oh, you know what? There's no leaf there, but I think I want a leaf. I think I'm going to add a leaf. And so the whole idea is what you want, what I hope all my students want, is to create a piece that has their voice, Of course, you learn, right? You learn from others, which is exactly what I love to teach. But then, kind of make it your own. I am so excited to share the final look with you. So I want to tell you a couple really important things. You always need to look at your painting again, and this is where you add a little bit more detail and just kind of oomph a couple areas up, which is exactly what I did. I took a little bit of red and I put it around the black, and I always love to take the color of the background and sometimes even a brand new color and just put just a little palette knife swipe with that. I did go over this area here and pulled out a leaf. This, I also went in a little bit with the background and delineated that out a little bit. I signed it, and I do want you to see how I left some of this underneath orange part showing through, and I probably could have left that in certain areas of the painting, which I do in my course, where I show you that I bring the background actually becomes a flower. And so I am so thrilled with this. When I was finished, I took the blue paint and I went along the sides here. Now, I want to show you what these look like finished. Unfortunately, I don't have any more of the 6x6 1 5/8 because I use them all up, so I will be reordering, but I wanted to get this out before the course opened. The other thing I wanted to show you is, and so this is the piece here, and this is my interpretation of the piece. You could tell that it's this painting, this reference photo, but I did my own thing. And so it just has that abstract feel to it. And the best part was that I really had this outline here that I worked with, making this a much easier piece to do. I don't believe anybody needs to struggle. Great artists will look at a painting and they will kind of outline, do whatever they need to do, and I am all for, I've been a teacher for 25 years, how do we make it easy? There may be a point where you never need to do any type of tracing or any type of outlining, and you can just simply go and have a ball. But everyone needs training wheels before they get started, and so that is the purpose. This painting would be so beautiful in someone's home, and I did want to show you a couple of them that were actually finished, and so you can look at this new addition to the course. So this is where I went over a painting and I added some collage, which is really beautiful, and that just has the birch siding, and this is the painting of the blue irises that is actually the one that I am going to enter everybody's name that enrolls in the early bird registration time, and they will have an opportunity to win this original signed painting. And I wanted to show you that I actually did work on, this was paper, and I kind of transformed this piece, but I show the entire process in the course. I'm just showing you a few of the paintings, and I believe this is after my dear friend Trish. When the original one sold, I recreated another one, and this time it's on, I painted the sides black. And this is really beautiful with this cadmium red background that I actually, this was a black rose with a gold background, and then I decided why not change it to red, and I left a little bit of this out to create a really, really abstract look. And so I hope you enjoyed this lesson. It came out so great. I had never painted this before, and this was the first time I painted it, and I could not be more happy. It just has such an amazing abstract feel, a lot of energy, a lot of fun, and I hope that you're able to join us in small moments of floral love, where you can make 17 more paintings just like this.